I'm Alex Del Sordo. And we have Jess Eddy. It's Kevin Sauer, Nita DeFrance, Eric Murray. It's Mahe Drysdale. It is Sir Matthew Pinson. I'm Alex Del Sordo with Rower's Choice, and this is another podcast. And this is an exciting one because I'm talking to a decorated Olympian. And I think I've done maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe more. But this is exciting. It's a female. She's in the sport of rowing. She's been doing this a long time. And not only is she a decorated athlete, she's a coach now. And she's the head coach of Long Island University, Jaclyn Smith. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I got a million questions, but we always start with the first one. It's the same one. Everyone gets the same one. How old were you? Where were you when you took your first rowing stroke?
Funny enough, it was actually at this summer camp called Long Island Rowing. So I guess I'm coming full circle. So I had just turned 14 and I grew up going to private Catholic school. And I was, doing the transition from grammar school that I had been there from nursery to 8th grade. And I was going to the next school. So the school that I chose to go to was Our Lady of Mercy Academy in Syosset, New York. And it was an all-girls school. And it had offered the sport of rowing. And at the time, I had no idea what rowing was. I knew it had to do with something about boats, but past that, I didn't know. So when I told my parents I was interested in trying out for the rowing team, I don't know if they were scared or they wanted it to work out. They signed me up for a summer camp. So I took like a week, I don't know if it was a week or 2-week long summer camp where they basically just taught you the ins and outs of basic rowing.
Okay, so this is interesting because I remember my experience, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to go row," and my parents were like, "What is that?" Yeah, okay, go enjoy it. I was a football player, but you're telling me your parents, before you even started high school, got you involved in a summer camp. That blows me away. I mean, I love that. I love that your parents had the foresight to do that. But how did you know rowing was offered at Lady of Mercy? Like, did they reach out to you about like these are the sports that you could do? Like, how did that happen?
So, all these Catholic schools, you have to take an entrance exam on Long Island. Basically, you take an entrance exam and you can put 3 schools. There are more than 3 schools you can go to, but you can put 3 schools and you put them in the order you want to. So basically, it's kind of like college. You go to all these open houses, which is basically like touring the school. And at the end of their open house, you go into the gym and it has all the clubs and sports that they offer, and rowing was one of them.
So you take your first stroke. Do you remember who, maybe a coach or who was there during that summer camp that you just will never forget?
Yes, her name was Annika. I believe she's still coaching on Long Island. I'm pretty sure she's kind of a big wig here. I really do need to find her and thank her for getting me started on it. But I remember seeing her a few times throughout like my high school career, and it was funny. She was, I don't know if she's from Poland or Germany, but she had like a kid strapped to her stomach and a kid strapped to her back, and it was funny. Like as time went on, it would be like, oh, I'd meet somebody from Long Island Rowing. I'd be like, oh, like how are Annika's like 2 kids going and doing, and they're like, gosh, I think she's up to like 4 now. So she did it all.
What I don't want to put a woman on the spot, but what year was this? Like, how long ago was this when you started?
This was the summer of 2007.
2007. So I got you beat in age. This is great. So we're going to be crossing a lot of people that we know. All right. So 2007, Jaclyn Smith gets in a boat and rows. Now, how successful was your high school career?
I'd say freshman and sophomore year, I was just mediocre at best. I think that I was pretty like I was like an average height. I was about 5'8", 5'9". That's where I'm pretty much at now. But I was like super like slim and gangly, and I didn't really know much about my body or when to use my legs, when to use my arms. Had no core, had a bad back. So I'd say it was basically probably my junior year, or I guess sophomore year going into my junior year. I think that we went to New York State Championships my sophomore year, and I didn't make the boat that I wanted to make, and that kind of lit a fire under me. And, I think that summer kind of was a little bit of a wake-up call. And, I decided, what is college going to do for me? Am I just going to go to a local college here on Long Island and do my studies and that's it? Or do I want to get involved, and do I want to try and fight for a seat on a college team and hopefully get a scholarship?
So what happened? I mean, what did you do? Where did you go?
So basically I just started training harder. I started to really hone in on my technique, because I feel like, not being the biggest person in the boat, like you have to make everyone else look good. So I started doing that, started lifting some weights and brought down my 2K score. And then that kind of opened the door for talking to college coaches, getting on Be Recruited, and going to tour some schools.
Can you remember going back your senior year, what your 2K was? I always love asking that question.
I think it was my junior year in March. I broke 8. I hit 7:58.
Hot dang. I mean,
Yeah.
Can you just think back to how exciting that moment was? I mean, that's a big deal.
And it wasn't even just like at a practice. It was actually my high school at Mercy hosted a winter erg competition, and it was there. So it was pretty cool. I remember, like, my parents didn't know much about rowing. Like they knew about boats and we race, but 8 minutes, what does that mean to them? But I remember looking up, and I knew my mom had known that I was trying to break 8 for so long, and I finally did it. I just look up and I can barely see. I'm like blacking out, and she's there like with her arms up. So it was pretty exciting.
What do you think about high school girls today breaking 7 minutes? I mean, think about the speed and just the strength these young women are reaching. I mean, could you even imagine back then going 7 minutes?
No. I remember, like, when I was in high school and being recruited, that everyone's like, oh, you have to break 8 or you're not going to get recruited. And then talking to like my coaches at the time, and they're like, yeah, back when I was being recruited, if you were like in the 820s, you were going to get recruited. So, I think it does say a lot about the sport and how, far we're coming. Also, like, I think you can look at other sports and see, okay, like the time of, like, 40-yard dashes, how fast they've gotten, how many more pounds guys can bench press on, for football recruiting, stuff like that. So 7 minutes is crazy. But yeah, I think with, the right coaching and the way the technology has come on boats, on oars, on erging, and how we lift and train, it kind of makes sense.
I mean, like, because you're talking like, you was like 2010, 2011, you're going 8 minutes. That's over a decade ago, right? So yeah, it's
that hurt, Alex. That hurt.
yeah. Let that one dig in a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, it is. It's the truth. I'm not lying. It's a number. So you have, okay. So where do you go to college? Like, where's the next step for you? What happens next?
So funny enough, I know from, listening to your podcast, you went to Marietta. I was actually between Marietta and Sacred Heart.
Wow.
Yeah. So through the college recruiting process, my parents are retired police officers in New York City. And when my dad retired, I mean, you only have to do 20 years. So he was retired at the age of 40. I know, right? His second career was that he supervises public safety at Adelphi University, which was the university on Long Island right by our house.
Mm-hmm.
And, his shtick was that, you can go to Adelphi for free, or you can go anywhere you want, but you're paying for it. Oof. So I knew, like, all right, if I'm going to go somewhere, I have to get a scholarship. So I talked to a bunch of schools. I knew that I wasn't, big school material, not only like rowing standard wise, but also, I came from a small school. I knew that I needed kind of that smaller class size to stay focused and on task. So I talked to a few schools, and I'd gone out to Marietta. Love the college town. I like that they kind of made rowing a big deal, and you don't see that at many schools. So that kind of like sparked my interest. When it came down to it, I think at the time I thought that might have been a little bit too far away for me, especially because you had to fly into either Columbus or Cincinnati and then take another small plane to West Virginia.
You have no idea. it's the worst place to get to in the country because there's no direct. And I'm in, at the time I was in Jersey. So it's like a 9-hour drive to get there, or equally that long, having to fly to Columbus and then, a little charter to West Virginia. Actually, I'm interested because I did spend a year there. I was there for 1 year and then I went to Chicago. But what made you decide not to go there? Like what was the deciding factor to not go to Marietta?
So I wouldn't say that it was anything about Marietta that I didn't like. It was that when I sat down with the coach at Sacred Heart, she really sold it to me. First of all, Sacred Heart was, probably a better distance away for me. Like it was about an hour and 15-minute drive, which, close enough where I could go home or my parents can come up and visit me, but far enough where my parents were going to be popping in, on a random weeknight to surprise me for dinner. But she really sold to me the program. She was brand new to the program, Nicoletta Mantescu. She was part of the Romanian national team and then did some coaching for them. Then came over to the United States, I believe around 96, and was the general manager at Saugatuck, which is a great program. So, when she came to Sacred Heart, and I knew it was a small school, but for someone of that stature to come and, coach at a small school, I knew that she had some big hopes for this team, and I wanted to be a part of it.
It sort of sounds like you with Long Island. We're going to get there. But all right, so you do your college, but then you do something pretty crazy. I mean, you're an Olympian, and I want to talk about this. So, tell me about your Olympic career. Tell me about sort of how you led to that, how you got into that boat, how you got focused there. Like because obviously that happened after college. So like what got you to that level of rowing?
It actually happened during college. I was in college when I made, yeah. So, I rowed freshman year. At this point, I was becoming a decent rower, like, nothing spectacular, but like much better than my freshman, sophomore year of high school. And went to Dadville's, and I loved the camaraderie and the spectators being there. So I was really going all in on the whole rowing thing. And, so I freshman year came and went. So sophomore year, I sit down, Nicoletta, my coach, and I'm like, this is great. I can row here for, I still have 2.5, 3 more years left here, but what is rowing going to mean for me after college? And, she was like, there's masters rowing, but, that wasn't the kind of competition I was looking for. I needed something more. I'm an adrenaline junkie. So somehow we stumbled, across the fact that with my vision, I was born with ocular albinism, which causes me to be legally blind, which, some people think that's completely blind, but it's actually, I have a visual acuity of 2200. So something that's 20 feet away looks like it's 200 feet away from me. So I do have working vision, but at the same time, like it's not the greatest. So we stumbled upon the fact that I could be on the Paralympic team. And at the time, I probably thought what everyone else was thinking, Paralympic, you have to, be missing a limb or something along those lines. So I'd reached out to the coach. I'd sent them an email, introducing myself, saying, hey, like, I think I qualify. Like, is there some sort of development camp that I can go to? And they got back to me and they were like, yeah, there's going to be a development camp out in Oklahoma City. This is 2013. So I'm at school, and I think it was April, and I find out like, okay, yeah, you got an invite to development camp in Oklahoma City in May. So I'm like, all right, I have no idea what to expect. At the time I think, okay, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to, show them what I got, but I'm probably not national team material yet. Go out to this camp, perform pretty well. And I go home, mom and dad, it was great. Coach, it was great. Had a good time. And I think it was like not even a week later, I get a call from the national team, the new national team coach. And she was like, how do you feel about coming to Boston to try out for the national team? And
who was that coach? Who
this
called?
was Ellen Minsner. She had just become the para national team coach. It was Karen Lewis before her. So it was a transition. Ellen was new. So I was like, all right, so cool. I got an invite to try out. That's awesome. So I'm going to go and, yeah, I'll try out. And it's okay if I don't make the team. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. So I go out to Boston in June, and it's a week-long camp. And I ended up making the team. So that kind of started it all. Like I really didn't know what I was getting myself into, but it all moved really quickly.
What was going through your head? I mean, come on, give me something, Jaclyn. Give me something. Like, you made the team.
It
Was that
was,
just? I mean, you had started rowing in 2007, so you're talking about 6 years of rowing,
yeah.
and you are now representing the United States. Like, were you just losing your mind on this one? This is incredible.
I honestly, I had no idea what was going on. I was 19, or I think I was going to be turning 20 in July. So I was 19 years old, and I think the next age to me in that boat, this boat was pretty old at the time. Sorry guys if you're hearing this, but Andrew Johnson, who had been on the national team for like 5 years,
Sure.
I believe he was like 26, 28
Wow.
at the time. So, and he was, the next person. And then it was somebody who was, Jenny Sitchell was around his age, the coxswain, but then it was also Eric McDaniel, who was in his 30s, and then Kathy Byington, who was 50. So I was like, I have no idea what's going on. These people are nowhere near my age. I'm moving to Boston for the summer where I know no one. It's not like I'm going to college where this.
You said Kathy Byington. You said Kathy Byington, right?
Yeah.
Her son, can't think of his name right now. What's her son? I used to row with her son. It's a small world. I can't think of his name right now, but we rowed together. So you're not lying. I mean, that's a huge age difference. I mean, you're talking like decades of a difference. Was that a challenge for you, jiving with the team, being that 19, 20-year-old? I mean, did they give you the respect that you were hoping for, or was there some difficulty there?
Yeah, I think that they gave me the respect. It was just more so the social part of it outside of practice. So like we'd go to practice and you're in the boat and you're focusing, you're pushing yourself technique wise, you're working on all that stuff. But then it was like, all right, practice is over. What am I going to do now? Like, who am I going to hang out with? I was living with a host family. I believe it was just a single woman, and it was kind of like I was a little bit isolated. Like I'd go home and basically it was just like Netflix and hang out by yourself. So it wasn't the stardom that you really think of.
It's a very lonely, well, we hear it all the time. It's a very lonely lifestyle to try to be an Olympian or to try to be on the national team. Like, you have to be very selfish. There is not a lot of partying, right? You're there for a job. So you make this team. This is 2013 going into 14. Olympics are right around the corner, so to speak. I mean, you're a couple of years away. So when you're not rowing for the national team, you're rowing with your
Sacred
college,
Heart.
right?
Yeah.
Sacred Hearts. You're going back and forth. When was your first taste of victory at the Paralympic level? Like, where para rowing? Like, when did you get your first victory?
That following year.
That following year, 14.
Yeah. So 2013, we went to South Korea. We came in fourth. And it was decent rowing, but at the same time, it wasn't that fun for me. I don't think that it rowing is all that much fun if you hop on an erg. But I kind of went back to Sacred Heart, and I was like, all right, like I far more enjoy my time rowing at Sacred Heart than I do on the national team. But then I'm starting to think like, okay, like made my family really proud. Yeah, I did enjoy going to South Korea. Kind of opened my eyes to something I've never done before. So I'm like, do I try out for the national team in 2014? I'm like, I don't know. Then I'm like, all right, let me just go up to Boston. I'll try out, and then I'll, make a decision if I make the team. I go up to Boston, and, there were 6 people that tried out in 2013. There was 14 people that tried out in 2014. And I wasn't the youngest. So I went from being like the youngest by like years in 2013 to those that made the boat. Aside from Jenny, the coxswain, I was the oldest. There were 2 16-year-old guys, and then Danny Hansen was a few months younger than me. So it was a very different experience.
Wow. I mean, this conversation is changing a little bit than what I expected. That's a huge jump in qualified members trying out. I mean, you're talking about doubling, if not a little bit more. what was the reason behind that growth in 2014 and 15? Like what happened?
That was all Ellen Minsner and her recruiting. She came in as, the new coach. And, I think prior to that, including myself, like I was born and raised with a disability, but I had no idea that I qualified for the Paralympics. So I think she reached out to a lot of colleges and was like, hey, do you have an athlete that, you college coaches might not know, but you might have an athlete that has a disability that you don't even see or know about. Club feet, Erb's palsy, some forms of arthritis, that all qualifies you for the Paralympics. So, I think she went in, sent some messages to some college coaches and some high school programs and got a handful of eligible athletes.
I got to ask this, because and this is coming from a very naive place. Like I'm very ignorant with a lot of this stuff. So I'm going to preface this by saying that you call it a disability. I mean, is there a right word to use in describing sort of the para world of rowing? Like, someone has a missing arm, they're short, they're this, they're that. Like, is it a disability, or how do you describe it? What's a better
it's a disability. It's a disability. There's definitely different kind of points of the spectrum, obviously. We go over to Rio and it's like, there are people that don't have any arms or legs. And then you have us who, you're walking down the street and no one would know that you have a disability. So there's definitely different, points of the spectrum, but yeah, it's fair to call them all disabilities.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up. Thank you for that. So you go to Rio. This is wild. So 2016 Rio Olympics, you're representing the United States. What was the category and what was the boat that you were in?
So at the time, our category was called the LTA 4, which stood for legs, trunk, and arms, which means that the athletes in the boat could use their legs, trunk, and arms.
Who was in that boat?
That boat was stroked by Dorian Weber, and it was Zach Burns, Danny Hansen, myself, and coxswain Jenny Sitchell.
Does it have to be a mixed boat? Does it have to be men and women, or could it be all
men? It does. Yeah, so it does. It has to be a mixed boat. It has to be 2 men, 2 women. You can't even do 3 women and 1 man. So we did try and finagle that years later, and it didn't work out. Just when the pool was larger on the women's side than the men's side. But it had to be 2 and 2. Coxswain's gender did not matter. And at the time, it was.
When you think about mixed lineups, do you think that could be the future of rowing, or should be the future of rowing? Forget about just the para rowing side. I'm talking like at the highest possible level as well, like of National Olympic level rowing.
I honestly, I don't think so. I think that there is really something to say when you have a men's category and a women's category. It provides equal opportunity to both sides. But take all that out of consideration, it's very hard to match up men and women. The cool thing that I think was for us was that, women typically have better technique and men are your powerhouses. So it was a lot of bringing that together, but there's a lot of math and, science, and Ellen was an expert at this, but, or lengths, they had to be different. The way our shoes are set up in the boat, different. And then on top of all of that, she had to think about, okay, well, if this person has club feet, they're not going to be able to get this extension. So she was really kind of a magician when it came to all that.
It's so wild. I think the general public has no idea how much time and energy goes into making these lineups. You're exactly right. I mean, it's almost like a mad scientist is there picking apart the right athletes and figuring out how they go and where they go. I appreciate your stance on the mixed lineups. I think from a visual standpoint, the average viewer has no idea what's going on. It could be 2 men and 2 women, 4 women, 2 men. It doesn't matter. The average individual watching doesn't really know the difference. But you're right. I think it is very challenging to match up lineups to be very competitive. And I appreciate your stance on that. How well did you do in the LTA 4+ at Rio?
So we got second in Rio. We got second in 2014, second in 2015. 2015 was the closest we ever came. We were 0.026 seconds away from getting Great Britain, but Great Britain has really dominated the four. So since 2014 through even this past Olympics, Great Britain has gotten gold and the US has gotten silver.
And can you remember being on the platform getting your silver medal in Rio?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
What goes through your mind and body as you're getting the medal around your neck?
For me, it was actually a really surreal experience. We race, and we had really gone into Rio thinking this is our year. We're going to win gold. This whole past year, everyone's PR'd on everything. We're throwing down these splits and times that like we've never thrown down before, especially coming off a year that we were so close to beating Great Britain. So we end up coming in second. There was an issue with the Cox box. The Cox box went out. So, me as the bow seat, I'm kind of going through my head, like, is the Cox box out? Is it just me like blacking out? Like, should I speak up? Should I not? And it ended up being out. So, we crossed the finish line, and I'm kicking myself. Like, I should have said something, not to take away from Great Britain. They clearly won that race, but I just think that, maybe I could have made somewhat more of a difference if I had spoken up about that. But we crossed the finish line. We got second. Obviously we're a bit bummed out because, we were expecting gold, and, you put all this time and energy into training that, it is a little bit of a letdown. Don't get me wrong. We're very grateful that we were able to come away with a medal. There's nothing greater than, representing your country and coming away with some hardware. But then, after all the tears and the, thanking your teammates and all that, I'm on the podium and I look up and, I see the American flag being raised, and I see my parents standing there. And it was actually the 15th anniversary remembrance of 9/11. And, a lot of, memories from 15 years prior to that came flooding through my mind about, saying goodbye to my mom. Was already at work. My dad was, I had to say goodbye to him. I had actually been home from school that day, so I saw it all happen. So it was a lot. 15 years ago, I didn't know if mom and dad were coming home, and here they are standing watching me get a silver medal at the 2016 Paralympics.
Okay. It's not like you buried the lead here, but like, holy cow, your parents and you were involved in 9/11. That's amazing to me. Like that's wild. And they survived. I mean, clearly, because that would have made you were like 6 years old, I guess.
I just turned 8.
You just turned 8.
Yeah.
And as an 8-year-old, you still remember that like it's clear as day.
Yeah, I can remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm grateful for your parents, and I'm grateful that they got to be there at Rio. And I don't want to like dismiss that moment, but I want to talk about this thing that you said. You said it was a letdown getting second. You must have incredible just competitiveness flowing through you, because I'm thinking, as me, a bystander of this boat, I would have been thrilled with second place. But there you are, like, yeah, you're happy, but you're like, oh God, like we should have gotten gold. I mean, that speaks a lot to the direction of where we're headed in American rowing. I love that. Okay, so you get second, you get a silver medal. At what point do you get into coaching? Because that's a huge decision. That's a life decision you're making. Clearly, you're the head coach of Long Island University. You're back in your home area. Like, when did you decide, I want to do this for the rest of my life?
So where I started with coaching and when I decided, all right, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, are two very different points. I started coaching actually the year before Rio. So I graduated in 2015, and I graduated and college rowing was over. So I was actually between. I was going to go for my master's degree. I was getting it at Sacred Heart, and Nicoletta Mantescu, the coach, approached me and she was like, do you want to coach? And, I said, why not? I can continue to train for Rio. I can continue to, hone up on technique and my coaching ability, while getting my master's. It's a win-win-win. So I started coaching 2015, right after I graduated. Was coaching at Sacred Heart from 2015 till this past year. And it was funny, actually. I'd actually gone after my master's at Sacred Heart. I went to Fairfield University and I got my master's in school counseling. That's what, I went to school for. I went to, Sacred Heart. I got my undergrad in psychology with a concentration in education. I got my first master's in elementary ed, and my full intention was to go on to become a school counselor. And I graduated, and then COVID hit, so no schools were really hiring. And then basically this past year, it was like, all right, like I'm looking for jobs. No schools are really hiring yet, and the ones that are hiring in district. So, and I was kind of ready for a new challenge. Had been at Sacred Heart and I enjoyed my time there, and I loved working with the girls, but I think I was kind of ready to take on a head coaching position. So just one day, it was like 2 days before my 28th birthday, I'm like, all right, I'm going to throw my, rowing resume, out there. And I think I applied for 2 positions, and, so that was July 1st. My birthday's July 3rd. Everyone's away for the weekend, the holiday weekend. I think July 5th, I'd thrown my application at 2 places and I got like 5 phone calls. So I guess word traveled quickly that my resume was out there.
I mean, how do I get that?
Yeah.
It's wild. I mean, oh my God, I can be so lucky. Well, so Long Island is a brand new program. Am I right in saying that? Like it's
completely new. Not even there's, a lot of schools that start, a Division I rowing team, they started because they have a club that's going pretty well. Long Island University doesn't even have a club. So I'm starting at ground zero. No boats, no boathouse, no ergs, nothing.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Like you got nothing. Do you have any athletes at least? Do you have interested kids?
Yeah, so I actually reached out, I think of that as every college coach does. I reached out to the student body that already, attends LIU and see, does anyone have any interest in joining the rowing team? I'll teach you how to row. You don't need any rowing experience. If you have prior athletic experience, that's great. If not, it's fine. Come on down. So
when's your inaugural? This is your inaugural season this year?
No, next year.
Next year.
Yeah. So basically, it's a year of recruiting, finding a boathouse, getting some boats. Just got my ergs in. So
this is wild to me. I mean, there's not many chances anyone who could ever have your position. It's so rare to find someone who's just starting out, brand new, not having anything behind you. I really hope that, we're always here for you, but do you have like a group of coaches and people that you're looking for advice from and support from? Like, I guess some of your old coaches that you were with in the past.
Oh yeah. Nicoletta Manteski has been phenomenal. She's really helped me. She's built programs before. So I've been lucky enough to have her kind of, as a tool in my back pocket, picking her brain about, where do I start? What am I asking for? Because everyone has an idea in their mind about, okay, these are the kinds of boats I want. These are the kinds of athletes I want.
Sure.
But, rowing isn't cheap to start up. So, it's all about budgeting and making sure that, we're going to have not only what we want, but what we need first.
Wow. Holy cow. Okay. I want to end with this because this is something I think, so I'm from South Jersey and I was a lifeguard for like 10 years and I'd have beach patrons come to us and say, is that New York City? Is that Long Island? Pointing to Atlantic City. Right. And they didn't know, like people didn't know. They don't know what a Long Island is. They don't know they don't know anything. And you ask the average rower, where the hotbeds of rowing are, and Long Island is never in discussion. It's never in discussion. It is a weird little place near New York that's very hard to get to. I think you agree with me. In fact, you can't even take trailers on certain roads because of the low overpasses. So there's only one way in and out. Is there strong rowing in Long Island? Are you expecting big things for the future of your program? Because it's not Boathouse Row. It's not Boston. It's not California.
Yeah, I am. So, there are a good handful of decent high school and club teams here on Long Island. But the thing that, is funny is like, all right, we're on Long Island. These kids that are at these programs on Long Island, they want to go away to college. So it's not like I need to pick from here. I'm looking for the kids from South Jersey. I'm looking for the kids from Boathouse Row, from Boston. They want to experience something new. And Long Island's a pretty cool place to experience. We have beaches, we have the city. There's so much to do. So, yeah, there's some good programs here, but that's not where the majority of my athlete pool is going to be coming from.
And do you have scholarships available for good rowers to come into your program?
I do.
Tell me about that. I mean, is this a big focus for Long Island University, or is it just going to get started like a slow little thing, like a little trickle, like a couple here and there?
They're fully supporting it. They've been great. But in terms of building a team, from the ground up, that's going to be a little bit slower than I'd like or anyone else would like, because you have recruits come to campus and it's like, I can't have them stay for an overnight because I don't have kids already on the team. So, so this next year I think will be considerably slow. I do have a few recruits and I already have a commit and looking to sign a few others for next year. But, I think with each year I'll get more and more recruits coming in because, okay, well, when I first got here, I don't have a boathouse to show them. I don't have boats to show them. I don't have anything like that. Now, next year I'll have a boathouse, I'll have boats, I'll have kids that they can stay with. So I think with each year, the ball will get rolling a bit faster and faster.
How about like support from like what do you call assistant coaches? I mean, are you going to be bringing on some help for you?
Yeah, our plan is to hire an assistant coach for an August 1st start.
This August?
This August, yep.
Yo, Jaclyn, this is, I mean, I'm beaming ear to ear because, for so long, we sat here in the pandemic like, oh, rowing is going away. Oh, people are shutting down. And here you are, Long Island University, starting a brand new program. I mean, that just makes me look forward to the future. I mean, that's a big deal. And the fact that you're like, this is your hometown. I mean, this is like where you grew up, right?
Yeah, it's very cool to be back.
A lot of pride in that. Well, how about you do this? Give me a 30-second pitch on why I, Alex Del Sordo, should go to Long Island University. Why should I row for you?
All right. Well, first of all, you get to row for me, obviously, Alex. But and you get to be, I mean, is there any better mascot for a rowing team than a shark? I don't think so. Yeah. So no, but LIU is a great university. It has recently merged. It used to be CW Post and Long Island University, and Long Island University was in Brooklyn. So we do have two campuses, but we've recently merged to kind of come up with a powerhouse of athletics. So it's a great opportunity to become a part of a school that is quickly building. And the great thing about it is not only are you getting great athletics, you're getting great academics. And not only are you going to be, learning in the classroom and in a small class size where you're not a number in the class, you're a name, but being on Long Island and being so close to New York City and everything that we have to offer here, there are so many opportunities for internships, for clinicals, for, things that are going to help build your resume. So, I'm looking for athletes, obviously, but a big part of my job and, working for smaller programs is that I'm helping kids, build their resume and prepare them for life after college. And that's what you'll get. You'll get the full student athlete experience here at LIU.
I mean, come on. What a 30-second pitch. I mean, quite frankly, I think your comedy won me. Yeah, I do want to row for you. And yes, I think a shark is probably the most badass mascot there is out there. Jaclyn, I've had such a good time talking to you. And I look forward to our next conversation 1 year from now, when you are now in a boathouse, you are with boats, with athletes, and we will be doing a part 2. Everyone tuning in. A part 2 will be coming, but not for another year. Jaclyn, thank you for being here. It's been great.
Alex, thanks so much for having me. It was great to chat with you.
See you later, everybody.
Good luck. Happy New Year.